In the darkest corner of the shelter, behind a cage no one dared approach, was a dog everyone had given up on. He didn't bark for attention. He didn't beg for love. He just stared back at the world with eyes that said, "Don't come close, or you'll regret it." Until one day, a little girl walked in and didn't walk away. No fear, no words, just a quiet connection that no one could explain. A child who didn't see a monster, only a heart that needed healing. Have you ever witnessed a bond that defied all odds? Drop your story in the comments, because what happens next will restore your faith in second chances. Absolutely. In a shadowed corner of the city's overcrowded animal shelter, there was a cage that no one dared to approach. The bars were plastered with warning signs in bold red. Danger, do not approach. Inside, a large German shepherd named Blaze sat motionless, his amber eyes sharp and untrusting. His growl, low, guttural, and chilling, had become a sound the staff feared. He wasn't just another rescue dog. He was a legend within those concrete walls, and not for the reasons anyone wanted. Blaze's reputation preceded him. Volunteers told hushed stories of attempts to get close, only to leave with torn sleeves, shaken nerves, and in some cases blood. Even experienced handlers approached with caution, if they approached at all. Over time, they simply stopped trying. Blaze remained in his corner, curled tight, his body tense with distrust and pain. He snarled at kind words and retreated from the gentlest gestures. To many, he wasn't a dog anymore. He was a lost cause. Yet Blaze wasn't born this way. His body told stories his voice never could. Old burn scars marked his side, a healed-over limp told of past injury, and his eyes were windows into a soul battered and bruised by humans who should have cared. He wasn't just mean, he was broken. It was on a gray, rainy afternoon that everything changed. The shelter was unusually quiet, the kind of hush that falls when the world seems to be holding its breath. The door opened with a squeak, and in walked a little girl no taller than the desk. Her hand was tightly clutched in her father's, her raincoat dripping, eyes wide with curiosity. Her name was Emma. Unlike most children who came in looking for puppies and wagging tails, Emma seemed different. She wasn't laughing or skipping from kennel to kennel. She walked slowly, deliberately, as though she were searching for something. When they passed Blaze's cage, her small frame stopped abruptly. Her father tugged her gently. "Not that one, honey," he said under his breath. "He's not safe." But Emma didn't budge. She stood in front of Blaze's cage and stared, not with fear or pity, but something softer, something deeper. Blaze met her eyes, unblinking. He didn't growl. He didn't retreat. He simply stared back, as if trying to understand what she saw in him. Emma knelt and pressed her tiny hand against the metal bars. She didn't speak. She didn't move. And Blaze, terrifying, unpredictable Blaze, edged forward, ever so slightly. After that first encounter, Emma begged her father to let her come back. Reluctant but moved by her insistence, he agreed. The visits became daily rituals. Each day after school, Emma would rush through the shelter doors, her backpack still slung over her shoulder, and head straight to Blaze's corner. The staff were nervous at first. They made Emma sit a few feet back, placing a chair near the cage with strict warnings not to move closer. But Emma didn't mind. She would sit there, her legs swinging back and forth, reading picture books aloud or humming little songs. Sometimes she simply talked about her day, her favorite colors, her dreams. Blaze listened. At first, he remained stiff in his corner, his ears alert, his body coiled like a spring. But he didn't snarl, and over time his shoulders began to relax. The fierce light in his eyes gave way to something softer, something almost hopeful. Then, one day, it happened. Emma dropped a stuffed toy. It rolled to the bars of the cage. The room held its breath. Blaze approached it cautiously and sniffed. He didn't bite or bark. He just looked. Emma smiled. and Blaze didn't growl. One chilly Saturday morning, Emma arrived with a small sandwich wrapped in paper. She sat down and began to eat, tearing off a tiny piece and tossing it gently toward Blaze's cage. He watched it land. For a long while, he didn't move. The silence stretched on. Then, in a motion that seemed to cost him everything, Blaze crept forward and sniffed the crumb. He looked at Emma, back at the food, and slowly, carefully ate it. The shelter manager had to wipe away tears. It wasn't about the food. It was about the choice Blaze made, to believe, if only for a moment, that he was safe. The next day, Emma came again. This time, she placed the food closer to the cage bars. Blaze hesitated longer, his muscles tense, but again, he took it. Then something remarkable happened. He licked her fingers, just once, quick and uncertain. That was the moment they all knew. Something was changing. As days turned to weeks, the bond between Emma and Blaze deepened. He began to wait for her, pacing lightly when it neared the time of her arrival. His eyes would scan the hallway, ears perked at the sound of her footsteps. When she came, he would sit near the bars, tail thumping softly against the floor. Emma introduced new games. She would roll a small ball gently toward his cage, watching as he slowly learned to bat it back. Every small victory, every moment of contact, was a step closer to trust. The staff watched in awe. Blaze, the same dog who once lunged and bared his teeth at anyone who dared approach, now whimpered when Emma left. He would press his nose to the bars, watching her walk away, his body visibly longing for more time. Seeing the transformation, Emma's parents and the shelter staff began allowing Blaze short, supervised visits to the outdoor yard. Emma would sit on a bench, tossing treats and talking to him in her soft, soothing voice. Slowly, Blaze began to inch closer. Then, one afternoon, he laid his head in her lap. Emma's parents saw what no one else had dared to hope for. Their daughter had found her best friend. The decision was made with careful deliberation, home checks, and long discussions with the shelter director. But in the end, they signed the papers. Blaze was going home. The day he left the shelter, staff members lined up in the hallway to say goodbye. Many of them had never touched him, never dared. But now they watched him walk beside Emma with quiet pride. His head was held high. His tail wagged, not in fear or anxiety, but in joy. At home, Blaze explored every room carefully. He paused by windows, sniffed at corners, and finally curled up at Emma's feet, as though he'd known from the beginning that this was where he belonged. That night, Emma whispered into his fur, "You're safe now, Blaze." Forever. Blaze was no longer the monster in the corner. He wasn't a lost cause or a danger to be locked away. He was Emma's best friend, her protector, her shadow, her miracle, and all it took was one little girl who looked into the eyes of a broken creature and saw not fear, but a heart worth saving.